These retirement mistakes can wreck your savings, your income, and your timeline after 50.
Stick around so you know exactly what to avoid. Now, I'm not talking about the stuff you've already heard 100 times. Match your 401k, pay off debt, delay Social Security. You know that part. I've made videos on that part. I'm talking about the mistakes that don't show up until it's too late to fix them. The ones hiding in paperwork you haven't looked at in years, insurance you've never actually priced, and decisions you assumed were already handled by somebody, somewhere, at some point. They're quieter than the savings mistakes. They don't show up on a balance sheet, but they can undo years of careful planning in a single afternoon. A hospital visit, a form nobody updated, a move nobody fully priced out.
And there's 5 of them. And let's go through all 5 of these, one at a time, and I'll show you exactly what to do about each one.
Here's the thing nobody explains clearly. A will only does one job. It says who gets your stuff after you die. That's it. It does nothing while you're still alive.
So picture this. You're 54. You have a stroke. You're in the hospital, unable to make decisions for a few weeks. Your will is worthless in that moment. Completely worthless. It doesn't kick in until you're gone.
What actually matters while you're alive but unable to make decisions are 2 other documents. A durable power of attorney for finances, which lets someone manage your money and pay your bills, and a healthcare power of attorney, which lets someone make medical decisions on your behalf. Without that second one, your spouse, even after 25 years of marriage, cannot automatically step in and make medical calls for you, or sell a jointly owned property, or manage accounts that are solely in your name. Marriage does not grant that authority automatically, no matter how long you've been married.
So instead, your family may have to go to court and ask a judge for guardianship or conservatorship. That's a public process. It's expensive, and it can take weeks your family doesn't have while you're sitting in a hospital bed. This one costs almost nothing to fix, and it doesn't take long either. Free state forms exist through AARP, the American Bar Association, and hospice and palliative care organizations. You don't even need a lawyer for the basic version, though plenty of people have one review the full set of documents together once it's done.
Most people just haven't done it. Not because it's hard, because nobody ever told them in plain language that a will doesn't cover this. Here's one that blindsides families constantly, and it's almost never malicious. It's just forgotten paperwork. Your 401k, your IRA, your life insurance policy, none of that follows your will. Every one of those accounts has its own beneficiary form filled out years ago, and that form overrides your will completely.
So say your will says everything's split evenly between my kids, but you've got a $500,000 IRA that still lists your ex-spouse as the beneficiary from a marriage that ended a decade ago, and nobody ever updated the form? Your ex gets the $500,000, not your kids. The will doesn't matter. The form does. And by the time anyone discovers the mistake, there's usually nothing left to do about it. And here's the part that really catches people. Divorce doesn't fix this automatically for most employer retirement plans. There was an actual Supreme Court case on this, Egelhoff versus Egelhoff, and the ruling was clear. Whoever's named on the form gets the money, divorce decree or not. This one takes 15 minutes to fix. Log into every retirement account, every life insurance policy, and just look at the name on file. After any marriage, divorce, or new kid, that's your cue to go check again.
2 mistakes down. Both of them are the kind that cost nothing to catch, just an afternoon and a login. The next one costs a lot more if you wait.
Out of all the mistakes after 50 on this list, this is the one people avoid thinking about the most. I get it. But avoiding it doesn't lower the odds. Someone turning 65 today has close to a 70% chance of needing some kind of long-term care later in life. Not might. Close to 7 in 10.
And the cost isn't small.
A private nursing home room runs somewhere around $11,000 a month right now. A 3-year stay, which is close to the average, can blow past $300,000. Medicare doesn't cover that. It only covers short-term rehab, not ongoing care. Here's why this belongs on a mistakes list instead of a someday list. Long-term care insurance is priced on your age and your health at the time you apply. Both of those work against you the longer you wait.
Buy at around 55, and you're often looking at somewhere around $2,000 to $2,200 a year for solid coverage. Wait until 65, and that price climbs meaningfully. And if you develop a health condition in between, you might not qualify at any price. Most planners point to 55 to 65 as the real window. Old enough that the need feels real, young enough to still qualify.
There are 2 flavors worth knowing about, quickly. A traditional policy is cheaper for the same coverage, but it's use it or lose it. If you never need care, those premiums are just gone. A hybrid policy pairs a life insurance death benefit with a long-term care rider, so if you never use the care portion, your family still gets a payout. Costs more, but nothing's wasted either way. Only about 11% of people who'd actually benefit from this coverage own a policy. Everyone else is self-insuring, whether they realize they've made that choice or not. If your plan involves leaving work before Medicare kicks in at 65, this next part matters a lot right now. Most early retirees lean on the ACA marketplace to bridge the gap until Medicare. That bridge got a lot more expensive in 2026. The extra subsidies that had been capping marketplace premiums since the pandemic expired, and as of this filming, Congress hasn't extended them. The average subsidized enrollee is now paying roughly double what they were paying before, jumping from somewhere around $900 a year to close to $1,900 a year for the same plan. And that's the average. For some households, it's far worse. Here's who gets hit hardest. If you're 50 to 64 and your income is above a certain level, you can lose subsidy eligibility entirely, not gradually, all at once. And only about a quarter of large employers extend health coverage to retirees under 65. So most people leaving a job before Medicare age have no employer bridge waiting for them either. The fix isn't necessarily don't retire early, it's know the real number before you do.
A few bridge options worth pricing out ahead of time. COBRA lets you keep your old employer's plan for up to 18 months, but you're paying the full premium yourself with no employer subsidy. Sometimes still cheaper than an unsubsidized marketplace plan, sometimes not. A working spouse's employer plan, if you've got one available, is often the cheapest bridge of all. And if you've been contributing to an HSA, that balance can cover qualified medical costs tax-free during these years, which takes some of the sting out of a higher deductible plan. Price all 3 out before you hand in your notice, not after. This is one of those political footballs that could still change, but as of right now, this is the number you need to plan around, not the pre-2026 number you might remember from a friend.
This last one sounds like good advice on the surface, and that's exactly why it trips people up. Move somewhere with no state income tax and keep more of your retirement money. Sounds simple. It usually isn't.
Only 8 states still tax Social Security at all, and most of those exempt middle-income retirees anyway through income thresholds. 13 states tax none of your pension or 401k withdrawals. So for a lot of people, the state they already live in might already be fine. They just never checked. And the state that looks like the biggest win on paper can quietly take it back through property taxes, insurance costs, or a higher cost of living. The tax line is one line in the budget. It's not the whole budget.
There is also a trap on the other end, the state you're leaving. High-tax states like New York and California actively audit people who claim they moved. New York alone has recovered over $1 billion from people who left on paper but couldn't fully prove it. They check things like, did you actually update your driver's license, your voter registration, where your car is registered?
Small details, but auditors build a whole case out of them. So if you're relocating for retirement, run the complete comparison first: taxes, property costs, insurance, distance from family, before you assume the move pays for itself.
And if you do move, close every loose end in the old state. Update your driver's license and your voter registration. Close local bank accounts. Some people even file a formal declaration with a local court stating the new state is their permanent home. It's not required everywhere, but it's one of the strongest pieces of proof you can have if the old state ever comes asking. Don't leave the paper trail half-finished. So let's bring it back together. 5 retirement mistakes, and every one of them is a paperwork problem or a timing problem, not a savings problem. None of them show up on the accumulation side of retirement planning, the saving, the investing, which is exactly why they slip past people who are otherwise doing everything right.
A will that doesn't cover incapacity, a beneficiary form nobody's looked at in a decade, a long-term care window that closes quietly while you wait, a health insurance bridge that costs twice what you think it does, and a move that looks smart on paper but hasn't been fully priced out. None of these take years to fix. Most of them take an afternoon, but only if you know to go look.
Most people will never know this stuff because it's not what shows up in the typical "here's how to save for retirement" advice. Now you do. Subscribe so you stay ahead of the curve on the parts of this that don't get talked about enough. If you want to go deeper on any one of these, the beneficiary rules, the long-term care window, any of it, I've got more on that coming your way.
And if you know someone who's got a will but nothing else, or who's about to retire early without pricing out health coverage, send this to them. This is the kind of thing that's easy to fix and expensive to ignore. See you in the next one.